Welcome to the Skinny Podcast. It's the weekly Potpourri edition. I'm Richard Skinner, Local12.com digital sports columnist and editor with Rick Boring. As always, it's presented by Blake, the attorney Maislin. I'm just going to tell you this, Rick, don't raise your voice to me. Do you understand me? Do not raise your voice to me on this podcast.
Skinny, it's all on camera. They can see me. I would never do that. I would never do that on camera.
We got crazy coaches to talk about, some college basketball to talk about. I got a technical foul the other night. I'll talk about that if you'd like and how I got that technical
Were you
foul.
raising your voice to him?
I did, actually. I did raise my voice. But
that's on you.
I didn't curse, though. I'll tell you what. I will literally tell you what I said, and you see if I deserve the technical foul or not.
All right.
We got a little bit of Bengals to talk about where it comes to restructuring Joe Burrow's contract and what the Kansas City Chiefs have done to free up some salary cap. It's kind of that time of year. We're out of football. Spring training has just started. No games have been played. Hunter Green thinks people slandered him. That's about the only interesting thing coming out of Red Spring training at the moment. And we're kind of in that lull before college basketball hits conference tournament time where Xavier, UC, NKU all playing for their one shining moment to win their conference tournament and get in. Kentucky fans are losing their mind that they're about to slip out of the NCAA tournament. So we got some stuff to get to. I just hope nobody raises their voice. That's all.
Yeah, just as long as everyone keeps their voice at a reasonable level. I was at Dickman's with some guys after the NKU win last night, and they were talking about the Reds, and I got to hear all the exciting spring training tropes, Skinny. They said, hey, did you see Ellie De La Cruz added 15 pounds of muscle? And hey, did you see Sal Stewart is in the best shape of his life? I said, oh, good, we're back. Spring training is here, baby.
That's usually what it's all about, of what the people did in their off season to get ready for a new season and then suffer a soft tissue injury like 2 games in.
Yeah, and then when they're off their 100 milligrams of creatine during the offseason program, they shrink back down to their normal size and we go back to our regularly scheduled programming. Anyway, let's start with the college basketball. And honestly, with the local teams, I mean, as excited as I am about NKU winning their last 2 games, and that is good, I think we got to start with Mick. I know he's not local anymore, but that's all I've really talked about this week from a college basketball perspective.
But he is a local, so yeah.
He is a local, and I mean, maybe he will be again sooner than later from the way things are going here at UCLA. Like, Skinny, what do you think is happening with Mick right now? Because we know he's prone to do this type of thing and have his blowups on a reporter after a bad loss, but this is every single game. He's going out of his way to make a scene. What do you think this is about?
That's a great question. So, at my team's basketball practice the other day, one of the coaches saw a tweet from somebody heading into that night's game, the night they played Michigan State. And it was the guy, whoever tweeted out, had put different odds on what Mick Cronin would do during the game or even after the game. And he actually, you know what? He trumped it all by what he did in the game and what he did after the game. I mean, none of those were on the bingo card. There was like 8 things this guy listed that Mick Cronin will do one of the following and set the odds at it. It didn't include kicking his own player off the floor and then having a tirade at a reporter. Well, it did have a tirade at a reporter, so I guess that did count.
Yeah. So if people didn't see it, there was a hard foul. One of his players, a breakaway situation for Michigan State. One of his players came up from behind. And quite honestly, I thought, a hard foul in transition. It wasn't like anything too egregious, I didn't think. And I thought he tried to make a play on the ball. It's not like he tackled the guy. Mick loses his mind on his own player, throws him out of the game himself. The refs didn't do any of this. It was just a foul. Mick yanks him off the court, throws him out of the game, but clearly just showing off for Tom Izzo, trying to act like a hardo, respectful coach. And then after the game, when he gets asked about student sections chanting at him and things like that, he absolutely loses it on this reporter. Skinny, I know, given the fact that he's owed so much money through his buyout, that there's no way that he and his agent are going to ask for UCLA to lower this or ask for him to get out. But it almost feels like, if I'm crazy, I'm thinking Mick Cronin wants to get out of UCLA and come back to UC. He sees the UC job opening up. He hates UCLA. He hates the time zone. He hates being in the Big Ten. The fan base out there is flipping on him. They want him out. It almost feels like he wants to get out of UCLA, but at the same time, I completely understand there's no way they're going to forfeit all the money he's owed in his buyout. So it's a weird situation right now, because where is this going to go?
Right. So he's complained about not having enough money for NIL, right? He has complained about his players not playing hard a couple of times this season. He's complained about the time zones and the travel in the Big Ten, despite the fact that he played at Michigan on, what was that, Sunday or Saturday or Sunday, and they stayed up in Michigan, so he didn't have to travel for the Michigan State game, and they still got their clocks cleaned. He throws his player out of the game. He's had a couple of tirades at reporters, including this one. it's either a guy who just is becoming incessantly frustrated with his situation, and this is the way he lashes out at it. But to your point, does feel like there's an end game that he wants out of this. I mean,
do you think he's trying to get fired and make him pay that buyout early so he can just get paid to go away, or what?
I mean, they could also, who knows what clauses in his contract. I think Jerome Tang, by the way, will wind up settling with Kansas State, who fired him for cause, and there's just no way that what he said is a for-cause situation. I think he's going to get some of that money back. I think you'd agree with that.
Yeah, I think Kansas State did it for cause, so they could settle for a lower amount than what the buyout currently is. But they know they're going to pay a lot of that.
That's correct. Yeah, for sure. And I mean, is he satisfied with something like that? Of maybe there's language in his contract, him embarrassing the university with the tirade at the reporter, or by kicking the kid off the floor? Is that something they can use? And then he winds up maybe he saw the Jerome Tang method of, I'm going to act as crazy as I can act. They're going to fire me. And then I'm going to find out that I'll settle and I'll still get a chunk of money. And then, oh, by the way, I'll go get the job that's going to come open back in my hometown. I think your point's a good one. I mean, it makes sense.
I mean, I know the UC thing is just too easy. It's a lazy local narrative, but Skinny, you can't tell me he hasn't ramped up the craziness since it became obvious that Wes Miller is going to be out at Cincinnati. And again, I'm not saying those two things are necessarily connected, but it's hard not to feel a little bit that way if you're a local person who's been around Mick. I mean, ever since he went to UCLA, the rumors have been there every offseason of like, oh, he hates it out there. He wants to come back. He might take Ohio State. He might do anything he can to get back in the Midwest. I never necessarily believed those rumors, but again, something is off with Mick Cronin, and that's not to say he needs to be off to act like this, because we've seen it for years. But
not to this
every
level.
night in an intentional way. It feels like he's going out of his way, and we've gotten past the point of like, he can do whatever he wants at UCLA. They're happy to have him. He's a little bit under a warming seat all of a sudden. Correct. The fan base is very out on him, and a lot of it is because of the way he acts. So there's no doubt that he's probably been asked, or at least they would like it if he would settle down and act a little bit more professionally in his post-game interviews, and he's just not going for it at all right now.
No, I mean, like I said, the person who sent that tweet out the day of the Michigan State game, it was funny, and you kind of think you get a chuckle, but literally you could pick one of the things that was on there and go, yeah, that's probably going to happen tonight. And
and what he did was crazier.
It has ramped up. Listen, all coaches at some point have their little soapbox moment for whatever they want to have their soapbox moment about, but you don't have something every night that seems like it's in crazy town. And that's where it feels like a little bit right now, that like there's some end game he's trying to get to.
Mick is a very good basketball coach. He's very good at getting his guys to do things that other coaches can't always do in terms of the toughness, the defensive consistency and intensity that he brings. I mean, he has been a very consistent coach in college basketball. I would also say, because of that way he plays and how stubborn he is about the way he plays, he's a little bit limited in terms of, I know he had his one Final Four with someone else's players. I don't think he'll ever be back there. I don't think he's that type of coach. I don't think he's the type of coach that can win a championship. I do think he's the type of coach that has you in the NCAA tournament every single year. And at the highest levels of the sport, that's not quite enough. And these things that we see from him, the craziness and all of that, is a defense mechanism once people start realizing that, like, he ain't quite enough, and he starts realizing, I'm not going to be able to do it here either. Didn't work at UC. I just need to go to a higher level. Went to UCLA. It's not working here. My stuff just isn't quite good enough. I'm a little bit limited with the way I play. And I think that's the reality that set in for him a little bit, and why he's kind of losing it and spiraling.
I mean, UC hasn't been back to the tournament since he was a coach, right? I mean,
right.
He got him there consistently.
And he is that. There's no doubt. Like, as much as it is easy to crap on Mick when he does stuff like that and start ripping on him, he is a damn good basketball coach. Like, your team is going to be in the tournament if you have Mick Cronin. You're going to be excellent defensively every year. So do you think UC fans would welcome him back with open? And again, I don't think any of this is actually happening, but if it were to play out some crazy scenario, would UC fans be happy to get Mick Cronin back?
I think the majority would, but I think you also want the hot name, Josh Schurz, who's doing some great things in St. Louis. They seem to be in love with Jared Calhoun.
Yeah, a lot of rumblings behind the scene that not only is UC interested in Jared Calhoun, but he's interested in the UC job, which is interesting.
And maybe that's that you want to see the new blood. You've seen what Mick can do, and you love the consistency of it, and it was consistently successful. You take away those first couple of years where he literally had to rebuild a roster from scratch in a day and age where you didn't have the transfer portal. He did a terrific job at UC. No one can doubt that. But I think you're at the stage where you'd say, "No, let me see what some new blood looks like." And I mean, Josh Scherz did some great things at Indiana State. He's done some great things at St. Louis. That seems to be a guy whose track record is ascending upward at different. I mean, I like when guys can do it at more than one place and not traditional play. St. Louis was a traditional power in the 40s and 50s, and they had some good success when Charlie Spoonhour was coaching, but they are not on the tip of your tongue of college basketball powerhouses. They just lost their second game of the season the other night. I mean, they're like 25-2 against the Missouri Valley, but they're a good team.
I think he can definitely coach. Like, I'm not taking that away from him at all. He's a fascinating offensive coach for sure. But I do think St. Louis is another one of those jobs, and you could put Utah State and Jared Calhoun in the same boat, where you have the best resources at your level. And so it is a job that can make coaches successful a little bit. I think Utah State is even more so that when you look at the last, what was it, like 4 coaches now have all gone on to high major jobs, and most of them have not been very good there. So it does feel a little bit like that type of place. With Jared Calhoun specifically, do you feel like that's too similar of a hire to Wes Miller? I mean, do you feel like that track record that he has is too similar?
No, I mean, the SoCon and whatever amalgamation of Mountain West League they're in nowadays, I don't think I think that league's better for sure. So no,
But most of Jared Calhoun's track record is in the Horizon League.
That's that's a legitimate point. But again,
he's done it for 1 year at Utah State at a place where it was set for him to do it.
Yeah, it's a fair point.
And he never won in the Horizon League, really. He just was not as bad as they used to be in the Horizon League.
Well, that's the thing. Well, and they were pretty bad at one point too.
Yeah, it's a tough job, but like he got a lot of credit for just making a tough job pretty good and never really winning the conference or anything.
Who can win with a nickname of the Penguins other than in hockey?
Had some talent there. Had the best NIL resources for sure for the first few years of NIL. So
yeah, I think most of the fan base would probably skew to the point of just give me something different. Fresh. Yeah. I've seen Mick. It works, but I've seen it. But back to the original point of this, there has to be some kind of end game here, or really he is just that frustrated, and it's every night when his team just struggles, he just loses it.
It's a defense mechanism.
They got their teeth kicked in. They lost by 23, but it was a 31-point game, I think, at one point, or 33-point game. I mean, they just got destroyed.
Yeah. When he's embarrassed as a coach, and you see it also when he coaches against the guys that he thinks are his contemporary, when he's against a Tom Izzo or something, he thinks we're the same. And so he gets embarrassed when he gets exposed by guys like that. And this is a defense mechanism for him. It's like the fat kid pulling his shirt down a bunch of times. When he gets in front of the reporters after an embarrassing loss, he starts lashing out and bullying. That's kind of his deal.
Yeah, no, and I thought that was embarrassing on his part. I mean, that was
hilarious.
It was hilarious.
Completely hilarious. I mean, that really looked like a Saturday Night Live parody or something when he started saying, "Are you raising your voice to me? Come on, man, it's all on camera."
I also saw this, I think it was on social media. Yeah, it was like 2.5 minutes. Or no, it might have been on YouTube, actually. I think it was on YouTube. I get in YouTube wormholes sometimes looking at old games and stuff, but this popped up on there. It's like a 2.5-minute compilation of different outbursts from him over the last couple of years.
Do you think our guy Jeremy Rao is walking a little lighter now, knowing that he's off the hook for worst question Mick's ever been asked?
I don't think Jeremy cares. That's the beauty of it.
Well, nor should he.
Correct.
Nor should he on that.
Correct.
Front, for sure. All right, let's go to my Norse. They won at IU-Indy 84-81 over the weekend, and then won against Purdue-Fort Wayne at home 87-71. Skitty, we talked about they're in a situation coming down the stretch here with 5 games left where they've got to win out pretty much if they want to host a home postseason game in the first round. And they still have 3 games to go, but the last few games, you could argue, especially I'd say 2 of the last 3, and then really just a half of that game at IU-Indy, they've played some of their best basketball of the year.
Yeah, I listened to the start of the second half, your all's call last night, you and Jim Kelch, and they seemed like they were on a complete roll in the offensive end. I flipped to another station real quick when you guys went to a timeout at 62:50. I turned it back, and suddenly they give up like a 6-0 run. I'm like, okay, here we go. They're going to do this stuff again, but really never were headed after that.
No, that's a great point, because that moment when they cut it back down to 6 and it's like a 2-possession game, it had just been 12, and within 40 seconds, it goes back to a 2-possession game after a couple of threes, and you're thinking,
yeah, I was late. I was late flipping back to you guys. I got caught. I think I was listening to Sports Talk or something, and flipped back, and all of a sudden it's like, oh, they made it a game. I'm like, wait, how quick did this happen?
And you could probably hear the concern and frustration in my voice, because I'm thinking here we go again. This has been every game recently. It comes down to the last possession, and they've got to make big plays to win it. But this was different. They actually had an answer for that, both defensively and offensively. They went back on a run, got a double-digit lead, and pretty much kept it there the rest of the night, which I think had to be good for the coaching staff to finally see one go down easily, where every game it feels like they've been coaching right down to the final possession and doing everything they can on both ends of the floor, and this time they didn't need all of that. And, I mean, it's been different guys throughout the season. We talked about they have multiple options, but it's been really nice to see LJ Wells stepping up consistently. He really delivered. And then the other guy that's been really consistent of late is Tay Dozier, the Georgetown transfer, knocking down threes, making plays defensively. And last night he had 15 rebounds as a 6'5" guard. That's an incredible performance in a role. He doesn't need the ball all the time. He's not having to dominate on the offensive end to really control the game on the glass with 15 rebounds. That's a nice asset.
Before the podcast started, I kind of caught you by surprise. I said, they're only a game out of third place in the league.
Yeah. And I was like, I'm only worried about fifth place right now. I'm just trying to get them over fifth. But when you think about how log jammed everything is, we've been talking about that. I mean, Robert Morris sits in third right now at 10-7. Green Bay's tied with them at 10-7. Detroit Mercy's at 9-7. And you have NKU and now Purdue Fort Wayne both tied at 9-8 right behind that. So it is a complete log jam in those positions that are the final few home games in the first round of the postseason. So everyone that we just mentioned is vying for a home game or potentially going on the road in the first round.
Yeah, and Green Bay's going to be without their coach for a game too. Doug Gottlieb had his own tirade.
Yeah, I know. I wish I had the audio for that so we could play it a little bit. Although there were a couple F-bombs, we'd have to bleep them out. I gotta say, one, that was an intense tirade. For those who didn't
hear it, he was upset about the foul shooting disparity and the officiating disparity in his opinion.
Well, what really set him off is he made a comment like that of like, hey, they got called for a foul. And he said, that's the same foul down there that we didn't get, basically. And that's all he did. He didn't do it demonstratively. He didn't come out of his box. He was sitting on his bench. He stood up off his bench and said, that's the same call down there. And they had clear as day audio of it. We all got to hear it. And he got teed up for that.
That's ridiculous.
And I'll be honest, I'm completely with him. It's a terrible call. And that is one of the Horizon League's biggest issues. They have refs who are not able to handle the interactions with coaches. They get rabbit ears. They get way too worked up with arguing with the coaches. Like, hey, if you make a bad call, or even if you didn't make a bad call, the coaches are going to yell at you sometimes. You just got to let that roll off your back and continue with your job. Horizon League refs don't do that enough. I liked Doug Gottlieb's rant. I think he was in the right. Now, did he go too far with it and start calling out the commissioner and say he needs explanations and everything? That was a little surprising, but I agreed with everything he said. The Horizon League officials stink. And more importantly, if you are going to stink, you can't be bad at administering the game and giving out technicals when coaches are doing nothing other than telling you, hey, that's the same call down there.
Yeah, I got one the other night. Here's how it went down.
What'd you do? Would you raise your voice?
It's my only one of the season that I got. So we're up 2 at the end of the half. We have 3 fouls to give, and we have a bingo as an automatic foul call. So we yell bingo. You have to go. You need to go foul the guy. So I even told our guys, I said, beware to bingo here in a second. So kid comes across the timeline. 5 seconds, I yell bingo. My kid's up in him. He's slapping him all around. I'm going bingo, and he keeps slapping him around. No foul called until my man decides to rise up and shoot a desperation 3 right ahead of the buzzer. That's when the official calls the foul. And I yelled, and I did yell. I said, he fouled him 3 seconds before that. He said, no, he didn't, coach. I said, yes, he did. I said, have some situational awareness. We're trying to foul. My guy has clearly fouled him. I'm yelling it. And he goes, you can't yell at me. Boom. That was it.
He got you. You raised your voice to him. You can't raise it wasn't on camera, but everyone saw it, Skinny.
Everyone saw it. Actually, the opposing varsity head coach, who can be very demonstrative, himself came up to me after the game and said, that was weak sauce, man. Weak.
I don't know.
It was probably an amalgamation of yelling at officials throughout the season that landed me this technical foul. But
I'm more interested in thinking about your strategy here, because actually, I think this might be a situation where we've gone too far with the analytics route. If we've got U and JV games fouling up 3 in those situations,
it was at the end of the half. We had fouls to give.
Oh, okay. I thought you were up 3, trying to avoid letting them hit the tag for 3.
We're actually up 2 at the end of a half. I got 3 fouls to give. Might as well give them, try to make them not get off a shot, right?
Yeah, well, I gotta say, I think it's something you need to take. Anything that involves like intentionally fouling, I think you need to take it into consideration in all seriousness, because we've talked to Darren Horn about this at the Horizon League level about fouling up three, and
Yeah,
he says
I don't like that. I don't.
he's changed his mind about it because of the bad officiating.
Yeah,
because you don't know what's going to happen in that situation. If they call it, they don't call it when you foul them initially, and then call it continuation now with the rule change, and it ends up being a 3-point shot. Is that you just can't trust the refs to make that call, that judgment call, the right way in those high pressure situations, to where it's just not worth it. I'd rather play out the situation, and I think that probably trickles down to the JV high school level in North Kentucky.
I mean, be situationally aware. I mean,
yeah,
it's not hard to do. The only good part was the kid wound up having 5 free throws. They may have had somebody else shoot the technicals, but they had 5 total free throws, only made 2. So we ended up at the half tied and won in the second half. So it worked out fine.
All right, as we sit here, NKU will play again this weekend on Sunday at Youngstown State, and then they'll play again at Cleveland State on next Wednesday. So that'll be before we talk again. They'll only have one more game. They'll only have one more game after that. What do you think? Do you think the Norse can pull it off and get that home game?
I mean, 2 road games in Wright State at home to finish it off. That's a tall. I mean, if you went 2-1, I think you chalk it up as a win, and that's I think 2-1 gets you the home game. I'm looking
I don't
at
think it does.
Place.
I don't think it will.
Well, you got to have some other scenarios help you out.
That's the problem. They don't control their destiny. It's all about getting help from other teams. And if it now granted, anything can happen in the league this year, so there's no guarantees. But based on what's projected to happen, you probably need to win out if you're in KU.
I think that's good. That's a tall task. 2 road wins and a home win over Wright State. That's tough.
Yeah,
I would say you do that though, based on that would give you a 5-game win streak to end the season.
That's what I keep saying. If they do pull that off, I think if you're an NKU fan, you feel pretty darn good going into the Horizon League tournament, especially given all the parity this year. And Wright State starts a couple of young guys, a couple of freshmen, a sophomore. They've got a young group, and there's an interesting situation with the Horizon League tournament this year where there's now that play-in game on Sunday night for the 2 lowest seeded teams that are still around in Indianapolis. So like the 4 and 5 seed in theory. And then they'll play the 1 seed the following day on Tuesday or on Monday. So you've got a situation where Wright State will have played on Wednesday, the previous Wednesday, then sit until the next Monday. And meanwhile, another team who's going to play them is coming off a win the night before, going to have some momentum going into it. I think that's a tough situation for Wright State to walk into as the 1 seed.
Yeah, I know everybody always points to I'd rather be the fresher team. I think I'd rather be the team with a game under my belt.
Yeah, for that first game. By the time you get to the 3rd game in the finals, then you're going to be worn down. But that next night, you've got an advantage for the first 10, 15 minutes of that game, I think.
I'm with you.
All right, let's talk about Kentucky. I think they're the most interesting story right now out of the local teams because, 1, they're still playing for tournament seeding, and 2, you just can't really pin them down, Skinny. It feels like every time they start to be playing better and we feel good about them, okay, they're turning the corner, Otega Oweh's back, maybe they've got a chance. Then they lose at Florida, which no harm done. We expected that. 92-83 loss at Florida. Then you drop one to Georgia at home, 86-78. Like, Skinny, what do you make of the recent losses by Kentucky?
Well, I mean, they dig even during that winning streak, they dug out of a lot of holes, right? I mean, they dug out of the one at LSU, they dug out of the one at Tennessee, they dug out of the one at home to Tennessee. I mean, they dug out of some pretty good holes. And I don't know if it's a focus thing. I don't know if it's an attention to detail thing. I don't know if it's an energy and effort thing. But they keep digging themselves holes, and they almost dug out of this one. They cut it back to 81-78 with the basketball. Your best player puts his head down. He's a great driver, Otega Oweh, and what does he wind up doing? Dribbles the ball off of his foot, turns it over, ball game basically over at that point. And so you just can't keep digging yourselves holes. I think part of their issue is, and this can be really frustrating, you have offensive players who can't guard and defensive players who can't play on the offensive end, and you don't have many of the combination of both. So then your lineups get really, really wonky. And when you need a stop, you try to go to your defensive group. Well, then they wind up having a couple of possessions on the floor on offense because you can't hockey sub, obviously. And I just think that it puts them in a real compromising position. They are really, to your point, they're extraordinarily tough to figure out. Now, there is a scenario where they could possibly play themselves out of the tournament. Again, if they don't win again, I don't think that's going to happen. They do have a fairly tough schedule to conclude it. They have to go to Auburn this weekend, then at South Carolina, which is not a tough opponent, but it is on the road in the SEC. They still have to play Texas A&M at Texas A&M. They get Vandy coming to Rupp, and they got Florida coming to Rupp. So you got 3 and 3, and possibly if you count Auburn is probably a bubble team at the moment. 3 for sure NCAA tournament teams and a bubble-ish type NCAA tournament team, and then 1 which should be a win, although again that's on the road. The panic button shouldn't be pressed at the moment. You go to bracketmatrix.com. They're still on the 7. In fact, they're at the very top of the 7 seed line.
Yeah.
The 4, 6 seed lines above them all lost. I mean, BYU lost last night. St. Louis lost. Louisville lost. And North Carolina's on that 6 seed line, and they got destroyed. So I don't think it's time to panic at the moment, but I don't think you can certainly lose your way out and get in the end. I think there is a scenario where you play your way out of the tournament.
Yeah, I think it's fair as a Kentucky fan to be concerned about this team's lack of consistency, about the fact that they haven't really turned the corner, even though we thought maybe they had a week or 2 ago, and this happened. So that part of it is concerning. But, last night I'm at NKU, and at halftime I went over to see my son, and somebody stopped me that I hadn't seen in a while. He wanted to talk about Kentucky. He's like, oh man, we're not going to make the tournament. It's like, guy, look, I know you're upset about your team right now, but there's no reason to feel that way. Like, they're clearly still going to make the tournament. And in fact, the teams around them are helping them right now, if you look at Bracket Matrix. So
I mean, the flip side of what I just said about the toughness of that schedule is you can earn yourself some really good wins from a quad standpoint and actually rise maybe to that 6 seed line, as goofy as that sounds.
Yeah, and based on the way this Kentucky team has played, it'll probably be a little bit of both, right? They'll probably win 1 or 2 that you're like, oh, wasn't sure they were going to win that one, and then they might lose 1 or 2 where you're like, man, wish they would have had that one, and they'll come out around where they are now, probably, which is like a 6, 7, or 8 seed, and we'll see what they do in the SEC tournament from there. Yeah,
for sure. But it's been a really weird season.
Yep. Cincinnati beat Utah 69-65 over the weekend. The Bearcats.
That game was awful to watch.
It was a really boring game. They do play Saturday at Kansas. Well, and then the following game at Texas Tech on Tuesday, which just a really brutal schedule coming up.
Well, but hear me out. What if you go steal a win at Kansas? And now Texas Tech is without arguably one of the best players in the country, JT Toppin, lost for the season. And you go there and win. Do you play your way? If you win those 2, you still got BYU, which is an NCAA tournament team. You play them at home, and then a very winnable home game against Oklahoma State, and they finish the year at TCU. What if you won out? Is it enough to get you at least in the bubble conversation?
Do you want a serious answer to that question?
I do.
Oh, I didn't know if this was a parody or not. 1, that ain't going to happen. 2,
well, I agree, but anything can. Again, you go steal this one at Kansas, which I don't think they're going to do. But
I mean, 8 in a row to end the year. Would that be enough? That'd be 8 wins in a row.
That's what I'm asking you. I mean,
I can't believe we're having this conversation in a serious manner, but that does put them at 11-7 in the conference. Yeah, 19-12 overall.
Yeah, what does the committee do though with a win at Texas Tech without Toppin would be my question. How do you treat that? Because you got to treat it as just the analytics are going to be the analytics.
Yeah, it still matters, but you're right. It dings you a little bit, but that'd be unbelievable if UC were to win out and head into the Big 12 tournament with an actual conversation of like, could they be a bid thief?
Yeah, like, can they get one more big win in this conference tournament to be a bid thief? Listen, do I think it's far-fetched? I mean, they could go to Kansas and get smoked, still go to Texas Tech and lose with Texas Tech not even having JT Toppin and the conversation's over with. But I'll give you the what if.
What's more likely, that they win out or lose out?
Neither, because they're not losing at home to Oklahoma. Although they almost lost at home to Utah, for goodness sakes. They're not losing at home to Oklahoma State.
But it's more likely that they lose out than win out.
Yeah. I mean, you got 2 highly regarded teams here on the road back to back, and a road
BYU at home, which is tough.
BYU at home is not going to be easy. So
and then TCU on the road is going to be tough.
I mean, if you gave me a scenario, 1-4 feels like the way they're going to finish. So to your point, if the question is more likely, yes, more likely they're going to lose out, but I don't see that happening either. But what if Rick Broering?
Put them in. Put Miami in.
Put them in.
You in? Put them all in. Put them all in. Xavier beat Marquette 96-88. Nice win for the Musketeers over the weekend, and then lost to Villanova 92-89 in overtime. Another one of those entertaining, enjoyable games to watch, quite honestly. But if you're a Xavier fan, you can't come up with the plays needed down the stretch. And we've said that how many times this year? I think they're now like 2-5 or 2-6 in those 1-score games.
A trillion times. So I'm listening to the end of that game as I'm driving back from maybe a game that I was coaching. I was somewhere, and the resignation in Joe Sunderman's voice when Trey Carroll turned the ball over. I'm like, and in my mind, I'm like, what's he doing racing up the floor with the basketball? And I heard your conversation with Mo Egger yesterday on your normal segment on ESPN 1530, and I think the conversation was great. You're both right. You're not in that game without Trey Carroll, but Trey Carroll also helped cost you that game.
Yeah, like you quite literally couldn't win that game with the way Trey Carroll played. 6 turnovers and giving the ball way down the stretch like that. He wasn't good enough to win you that game. He cost you that game in some ways. At the same time, you had no shot of ever being close without him doing what he did offensively and carrying you down the stretch in the second half. So, yeah, I mean, it's one of those things that's just kind of where you're at if you're this team this year. You don't have enough firepower. And as much as it stinks to be like, yeah, Trey Carroll shouldn't be handling the ball in those situations. He's trying to do too much. You rely too much on him in those end-of-game scenarios. You don't have better options. You have zero playmakers. You have zero guys that can break a team down off the bounce and set somebody else up and make something happen. It's like you kind of just got to put the ball in the hands of your best player and live with whatever he does. And unfortunately for him, he's a guy that didn't even start at Florida Atlantic for a reason. You know, I mean, he's obviously become a great player this year. He's been a wonderful get for Xavier, but he's not meant to be a go-to leading scorer, last shot type of guy for a Big East team. He's played that role wonderfully this year, better than you would ever expect, but it's really not who you want doing that type of thing if you're a top team in a high major conference.
Who just made the big game-winning shot for Xavier the last time they had to make a game win? He's my go-to. He's my go-to down the stretch guy, Philippe,
that's right. You got to put the ball in Phil's hands. That's that honestly, that I think a lot of fans would have been more comfortable in that situation with him handling it, bringing it up the floor. But again, then you got to get the ball back to Trey somehow to let him take the shot in theory.
No question.
Any other thoughts on the local college basketball scene or the college basketball in general, Skinny? I feel like was there any national stories that we missed other than Mick? Anything else?
The Doug Gottlieb tirade. Those. Oh
yeah, we got Doug out of the way.
And the JT Toppin injury is significant. I mean, they go from being a national championship contender to probably still getting a pretty high seed that you don't mind playing. I'm going to guess if you're a team out there that's a 7, 8, 9 seed, something like that, or well, they won't be a 1 seed, or I guess a 6, 7, 11, 12 seed. You're like, get me in with the Texas Tech now. I'll take my chances without JT Toppin on the floor. Right.
They're sitting as the last 3 seed right now, and you got to assume they'll be penalized a little bit for Toppin being out. So 4 or 5 seed, yeah, that's going to look like an upset line for a lot of people, I think, when you get to bracket.
I guess we're what, 2
time.
Next week is the last, the 2 more weeks of regular season basketball for the main conferences. How many national title contenders, in your opinion, are there? Just like legit. Does UConn's loss last night change your mind about them losing?
No, I have them in there. And part of it's because of what they've already done. Like you have Hurley, you have the coaching staff. They've proven themselves already in those situations. So I'd say Michigan, Duke, Arizona, and UConn, all the in theory 1 seeds right now, I would put in that group.
I'm putting Florida in there. I think Florida's going to be a really tough out, boy.
I think I'm willing to go Houston again. I know they never quite pull it off, but I think Houston's in that group again. Do you get? I know they're coming on strong recently, and they're kind of like the hot team right now. What do you think about Illinois?
They're really good. I didn't watch last night. It was too late. It was past my bedtime, but they destroyed USC at USC on Wednesday night. I
think that's kind of my group, right? I don't know if I have Illinois in there, but there's first team: Michigan, Duke, Arizona, UConn, Houston.
You're not putting Florida in there?
I would include. I like Florida.
Yeah. They've got a point guard who's legit. If their off guard shoots the way the league kid, if he shoots the way he did against Kentucky with that front line and with Boogie Flan at point guard, that team is really, really hard to guard.
And Kansas is really good, but they've got too much going on with Aaron Peterson and all that. It's just like you can't trust them. I don't believe in them. Like I said, Illinois is interesting to me. Iowa State feels like a team that's like a guaranteed second weekend team no matter what, but I don't know if I think they can win at all.
That was a great game the other night against Houston. That was fun. That had like deep in the NCAA tournament feel to it.
I love watching Iowa State. I love his coaching style and their style of play and the way he's so consistent and gets them to play that way, but I don't know that I think they can win it all this year. So, yeah, I don't know. I think it's kind of chalky to go with all the 1 seeds basically and then another team or two, but that's kind of where it's at. I feel like there's a handful, 5 or 6 teams that can maybe be in that conversation.
You may already know what I'm about to tell you. I didn't even know this till the other day. Somebody told me that the Peterson kid from Kansas, his dad played at Western Hills High School.
Oh, I didn't know that.
Yeah, I didn't either.
All right, let's switch gears.
He's a mess, though, man. Ooh.
Yeah, it's a weird deal. He's very good.
He's very good. When he decides to, I guess, listen to the coach or whatever. When he's
I don't really understand what he feels like he's accomplishing by keep not wanting to play and taking himself out of games. I don't know what's going on there.
I do have one other basketball topic. It does involve two Big East teams. Did you get a chance to watch St. John's and Providence on Saturday?
I mean, I was covering a game, but I saw the fight. Yeah,
I watched it happen live. That was some of the most ridiculous stuff I've ever watched. The complete head tackle of Hopkins on the breakaway was absurd.
Well, and the best tweet of it all was like, oh yeah, a third-year guy who's on his third team who never played with the guy who left his previous team are now fighting just like college basketball was meant to be. You can feel the passion or whatever. And it's like, yeah, like what are these guys so worked up about? They never played together, and like there's no allegiances between these schools anymore. So where did the bad blood come from for that type of foul?
Great question.
All right, let's talk a little Bengals real quick before we get to our Ask Anything segment. One thing I want to ask you about is the Chiefs. They restructured Pat Mahomes' contract, and I was curious, what do you think that means for the Bengals and doing the same thing with Joe Burrow potentially? Does that give them some more flexibility if they were able to pull something like that off? Do you think that's going to happen?
I don't think it's going to happen because it's not what they do, but I do think that's what should happen. In fact, I touched on this last week. TheAthletic.com and our friend Paul Dehner Jr. puts together a thing he's done like last 5 or 6 seasons where he does a spreadsheet and allows you to make roster moves underneath the salary cap. I mean, there's a number up there, but you can free up cap space. Like I think I told you last week, I cut a handful of players, TJ Slayton, BJ Hill. I was trying to free up as much money. So I did a story one week. You can find both of these at local12.com, not to tout my work, but I'm going to tout my work. You can find one of the first one I did without restructuring Burrow's contract, but then Paul also allowed a spot where you can free up $12 million this year by restructuring Joe Burrow's contract. And boy, did that allow me to do a couple other moves that I really liked. So I think if you're trying to maximize this offseason, I think it's something you need to look into. It does kick the can down the road a little bit per se, although you're going to convert a chunk of money. But reason Mahomes does, he just gets a big signing bonus check. You're able to prorate that over the next whatever many years. And he's, hell, give me the big money up front. I'll go put that in the bank and invest it wisely. I think it's a win-win for both case scenarios. Look, it does back you up in the cap eventually down the road where you've got to make some other probably machinations to make it fit. But you are trying to win in the Joe Burrow window right now. You need to maximize everything right now. That includes doing something you're not comfortable doing or don't like pushing money into future years cap-wise. I'm sorry, I don't care. Eventually, you're going to have to rebuild without Joe Burrow. That's down the road. That's years from now. Let's do what you can do now. And I think the Chiefs were in salary cap hell. This got them out of it a little bit, gives them a little flexibility. And Mahomes likes it because he gets a big check up front. It's great. I'll go invest it however I want. So I think it's a win-win for both.
And build a better team around me too.
Correct.
Like obviously they're going to want that. Yeah, that's what type of things were you able to do with that additional money? Is there anything you can point to like what it allowed you to free up?
Yeah, so a couple of the signings I did were the same ones as I did in the other exercise. Like John Franklin Myers is like the second highest paid defensive tackle. It's going to cost, so I still wanted him. I still signed Kobe Bryant at safety when I had a couple of higher priced things, but I got what I thought was a better third linebacker, maybe even a starter in Alex Anzalone for $9 million as opposed to Eric Wilson for $4 million. I got a better edge rusher. I signed, I can't pronounce his name, Ibikite from Atlanta, who is coming off a year, but I was able to sign Draymond Jones, who's younger and coming off of a better year for $11 million. So I was able to upgrade. I literally got an edge rusher, $11 million, John Franklin Myers at $17 million. I signed a nose tackle for $9 million, David Onyemata, who's older. He's 33, and I also drafted a second-round nose tackle so I can at least take some snaps off a 33-year-old. So I was able to get an edge, a nose tackle, a pass-rushing defensive tackle, a veteran linebacker who's been there, done that. I signed a slot corner in Roger McCreary for $3 million, and then I drafted a corner as well to give me some depth, and I signed a safety in Kobe Bryant. I mean, I was able to do a lot of things thanks in part to Freno. I mean, I wound up having $70 million to spend after my cuts and after I restructured Burrow's contract, and was able to do a ton of stuff. And I think the Bengals can do something similar. I really do.
They're going to screw up building this roster in the future in the salary cap, regardless once Joe Burrow's gone.
Right.
So why don't you take your best swing right now when you got Joe Burrow with you, right? Like you're not going to get it right without him. So try to get it right now. And you haven't been able to do that yet either, but at least give yourself every fighting chance to do
Hey, listen, I know the Chiefs are coming off of a losing season, but if there's not a better blueprint for the way a franchise should be run over the last how many ever years, it's not just because of Pat Mahomes. He certainly has been a big factor in that, but their roster building has been superb.
Yeah. NFL.com rated all the draft classes from this past season.
And so did CBS Sports.
Well, both. NFL.com gave the class a C+ grade that ranked it 25 out of 32 teams. CBS Sports graded the class a C- and ranked it 29 out of 32 teams. Just looking at a couple of guys, Edge Shamar Stewart, taken with the first overall pick by the Bengals, was ranked 115th out of 115 edge players. Demetrius Knight, the second round pick by the Bengals, linebacker, was ranked 82nd out of 88 linebackers. Barrett Carter, who was the fourth round pick by the Bengals, was ranked 85th out of 88 linebackers. Jalen Rivers, offensive lineman, was ranked 80th out of 81 linemen. Taj Brooks wasn't even ranked. Skinny, what'd you make of that? I mean, not telling us anything new, I don't think, but
Dylan Fairchild at least got a mediocre grade. He was like 40.
He was 47th out of 81. 47th,
81. So at least that was I mean, I guess they gave. I mean, that would almost sound like a closer to a D- grade, right, as opposed to a C. But I guess they're giving them credit for all the games played and started because I think they ended up getting, because I did that story, 50 some odd starts from the rookies. Does that sound right?
Yeah, Knight started 14 games. Fairchild started 15 games. Carter started 12 games. Rivers started 7, and then obviously have Stewart started 5 too. So
that's 53. So you got 53 starts out of rookies. And listen, the two rookie linebackers clearly struggled, and the PFF grade reflects that. But they also, I mean, when Logan Wilson was benched and then traded, I mean, you had no veteran to play off of. I mean, they were two chickens with their heads chopped off half the time running around out there. So I get that. And as I ended up writing the story based on those rankings. And I mean, it is a cautionary tale. I think clearly the snapshot in time is those draft classes weren't very good this year. That's why one's ranked 29th of 32. The other one's ranked 25th out of 32. But again, I think you always have to go back in year 3 or year 4 and then get your total grade of what that draft class did or does or is doing. But it is a snapshot of the current period of time. They just weren't very good.
Any other thoughts on the Bengals or the NFL at large?
It's Combine next week. I'll be up in Indy for a couple of days talking to Duke Tobin, Zach Taylor, and then the next day we get the coordinators Al Golden and Dan Pitcher. So we'll have you covered for that at local12.com as well.
All right. Lots of content coming from there. Ask Skinny anything. Got a couple questions. Did you have anything sent to you?
I did not.
Okay. All right. So we got 2 questions here.
Yep.
We'll start with, what's the weirdest thing that you've ever broadcasted? You've told some stories on here before of different things. What's the weirdest one?
Okay, so this wasn't weird because I actually strangely enjoyed it. I was in my early 20s, doing some stuff for cable for the late great Ted Bushelman and Cable One of Northern Kentucky. I did a police pistol firing range competition. The weirdest one was probably because I did this. They put me on some it was mostly a golf cartish thing in a mobile way. It was an obstacle course event at the old YMCA in Florence, next to the. There used to be do you remember the old YMCA?
Yes.
In Florence, next to the
like by the post office, right?
Yeah, correct. Yeah. So they had an obstacle course, and Ted decided he wanted to broadcast it. They asked him to broadcast it. Tag guy was it. That was probably the weirdest thing.
Who was participating in this obstacle course? It's like grade schoolers?
Joes and schmoes. No, just
like
people.
Children or people. Adults?
Adults, teenagers, adults. And
what was the point? You were just trying to get the best time or something?
Yeah. I had a sheet with bibs on it and stuff and trying to keep track because people are all over the place.
Was this like a Tough Mudder before a Tough Mudder or something? Like, what was it?
There wasn't mud involved.
Well, right. But like, it was like a fitness challenge. Like people.
Kind of like that. Yeah. Kind of like that. Yeah.
I mean, when you say obstacle course, I'm picturing like 3 tires, a couple cones, or like
climb a rope to get over a wall. Yeah. It was weird because it was so.
What would you say? Give me an example, call of me. Like I'm off. I'm at the starting line right now. Give me what you would say as I'm getting ready to go.
If I had your bib number, here's Rick Broering now going up the wall climb. Is he going to make it? He's struggling. Broering's over. He's on to the log run or whatever was next, or the tires. It was quite something.
I heard the pistol one before. I had not heard the obstacle course one.
I also did. I didn't have to call the races. But there's a field across from Turfway Park and the airport. It's now a business development, but it used to be a wide open field. they hold steeplechase racing there once a year. And I remember I was the host. I was 23 years old probably. And somehow Rob Braun and Kid Andrews were a part of the broadcast team. And then we did have an official race caller. So I didn't have to call the race, but I was the host of this thing. I still don't know how this day I became the host.
You just front man for Rob? And
yeah. I mean, I told them, let's go down to the infield where Rob Braun and Kid Andrews have a special guest, guys.
Honestly, what a gig for you in your early 20s. That's pretty big time.
It was.
And horse racing would actually be kind of cool to call.
It was. It was so weird though, because I mean, where our broadcast position was, when they would go way on the back, on the far side, you couldn't see them for a while.
Yeah,
that was my nerves because initially he told me I was going to broadcast. I thought, I've practiced calling horse races before, thoroughbred horse races from a normal perch, but I've never done this. And I'm thinking, I'm going to do this from ground level. It turned out I did, and they had a guy in a perch across who was a professional horse.
And they're on the backside. We can't see anything.
Yeah, correct. That's literally what I was going to say.
All right, the last question that was good. I had never heard the obstacle course one.
I tell this to everybody, every young broadcaster: don't be afraid to go outside your comfort zone. I mean, the one thing I've done. I do some things for St. Xavier High School. I do all their baseball games. We try to have students do it with us. It's mostly for the students, but the students don't sign up for all the sporting events. So I broadcast a lot of ones that the students don't want. Like they want football, right? They all want football. Yeah. They all want basketball. And they do it at every level. They broadcast the freshmen, the JV, the varsity. So a lot of different students can do all those things. But none of them sign up for water polo. None of them sign up for rugby. I did wrestling last night. None of them sign up for wrestling.
Oh, my goodness.
It's one of those ones where baseball, obviously, I grew up in the era of the three big sports, right? Baseball, football, basketball. So I do get a chance to do one of the sports, which is baseball. That surprises me. And a lot of the kids, unfortunately, I've listened to them do others. Like they're really good at soccer. They're really good at volleyball. They do a nice job with football and basketball. Man, when they come do baseball with me, it's almost like they've never heard anybody broadcast a baseball game, which I find, and maybe that's just generational, but it just was interesting to me. Like, boy, these kids really don't listen to baseball broadcasts, do they?
I think two things are going on there. One, I do think baseball is the hardest to call personally. If you're not experienced,
I love calling baseball.
But you're experienced and you've been around doing it, and you can take up airtime easily. You don't have to sit there and think like, what am I going to do during this dead time? For a young broadcaster who's,
and sometimes dead time is good, right? I mean, sometimes you need some dead time,
right? You can let it breathe, but I think when you're younger, you don't have the confidence to do that. And you don't know how to fill the airtime as well for a lot of young people. So it's harder because it's a slower game. There's not as much action to constantly fill your time to say it. And then also there's no doubt in my mind that these kids don't listen to baseball broadcasts. No. I mean, certainly not on the radio and probably not watching it much on TV. I mean, hell, I don't do it nearly as much as I used to. I know they're not doing it.
Well, it's interesting because and they're all great kids. I mean that sincerely. And they tell the lady that runs the kind of the club or department that we draw these broadcasters from how much they've learned from me just doing baseball. And that's flattering, but it also again tells me they're learning from me because they haven't listened to anybody else do it.
Yeah. There are a lot of people who have done a lot of things in this area from a broadcast perspective. Do you think you've done more like varied things than anybody else?
I would say the answer to that is probably yes.
Gotta be, right? Like I can't imagine anyone with that range.
I could say no to rugby. Listen, I learned rugby from watching a YouTube video and having the rules in front of me when I broadcast my first game last year. I still don't know it well enough. In fact, the coach was very nice. He said, well, you really do a nice job. He goes, but how about we have a beer and look at film? And that way, when a whistle sounds, you just don't say it's an infraction. You can specifically say what it is. I'm like, we haven't been able to do that, unfortunately. Hopefully I got to call a rugby match on Saturday. And it's not overly hard to call, but when the whistle blows and they start doing their hand job, I know all the signals in football, right? I know none of the rugby signals.
Yeah. Well, just start making them up. You see him make a gesture and just guess what you think it looks like he's saying.
I just call everything an infraction or we'll have a restart.
Infraction. He grabbed his shorts again. He pantsed him. All right. Final question. Do you drink your Road Pops out of the can or out of a Yeti?
Oh, out of a can. Absolutely.
In that case, do you keep the brown paper bag around it, or
no? I just
go out of the 12 pack and
just put it in the console and take a sip.
Do you like to buy like singles when you're at the gas station on the way home, or do you buy like a pack and then take it home with you and just open it?
That's a very good question. I usually will grab a 4-pack of Heineken and sip a couple on the way home, and then have 2 others when I get home. And sometimes there are places that don't have those because it's more economical. It's like $6.99 for a 4-pack. if I do have to buy only a 25 ouncer of Heineken, it's like $3.39. I'll buy it, but it feels like, gosh, I just wasted money because they don't have a 4-pack. So I can do both. Last night coming home, I went to a store and I wasn't going to go to another one. I went to a UDF up close to St. Xavier and ended up getting a 25 ouncer there because they didn't have the 4-pack, and it was just about right.
All right. That's all we got.
I love it. Speaking of that, I got to tell one more. Tom Stellman, the former football coach and athletic director at Connor, he loved the Road Pop stories. And you might have been producing the show then at Dickman's. He came down to Dickman's once when I was doing a show down there and brought me a 40-ouncer with a brown paper bag and slammed it on the table and goes, "Here's for your ride home."
That's incredible.
It was great.
Yeah, that I probably was producing the happy hour show at Dickman's at that time. So yeah, I was probably there for it. I don't remember that, but
that was that's well
great.
done.
I didn't know Tom Stillman at that time. I was a bright-eyed 18-year-old that was just happy to be allowed in Dickman's to produce your show.
Yeah, that was a class move on his part. I loved it.
Yeah.
All right, thanks, Rick. Thanks for the questions as always. We'll be back next week. I'll be back from the Combine. Don't know if I'll have any breaking news for you. I probably won't, but we'll have some news to talk about because we had a chance to talk to Duke and Zach and Dan Pitcher and Al Golden. Hopefully they'll give us some nuggets of information. We'll be inching closer. The Reds will actually have played some spring training games by then, so we'll have some real baseball to talk about, Rick. We'll have some early stances on some players and pitchers, and we'll see how they do. So
it'll be electric.
It will be totally electric. Nothing like spring training baseball. Although I do love the first spring. I tune in for this first spring training game.
You got to hear it, right?
You do. You got to hear it.
You hope it's 60-ish out or warmer. Correct. And turn it on and just get the vibes going.
Absolutely. We appreciate you guys being with us. Thanks so much. For Rick Broering, I'm Richard Skinner. It's been the Skinny Podcast, the weekly Potpourri edition, presented by Blake, the Attorney Maislin.